Will the Bruins get one more push out of their aging core? That is exactly what we're talking about today. Before we start, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe and join the Hockey Brigade. And now let's talk about Boston. So, the Bruins had another successful season last year as they made the playoffs for the 5th consecutive year. And just kind of like some other years, they flamed out. Wouldn't say flame out, but they lost in the second round. It wasn't as far as fans would have liked them to go. Now the question is, can they get back to a deep run like 2019 when they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals? And the answer is probably going to have to be yes, if they rely on these things. Now, one of the things they're going to have to rely on is young goaltending this season, as Tuukka Rask, the man in net for them, won't actually be there as he's dealing with a hip injury at the moment and is a unrestricted free agent that's hoping to sign with the Bruins again once he's healed up. Now, regardless of where that path goes for him, the team is left with a 22-year-old goalie, that being Jeremy Sweeman, and a 28-year-old goalie, Linus Olmark, as the two guys in net have to guide them instead of Rask, which is going to be a weird thing for Beantown this year. Now, Sweeman is a 2017 fourth-round pick by the Bruins, and in a very small sample size looked dominant last year. Sweeman had the 14th best goal saved above expected last season, according to EvolvingHockey.com, and played fewer games than all the goalies above him that had a higher goal saved above expected. Now, if you exclude Peter Mrazek, who is 5th in the league for this category, and he played 12 games, every other goalie above him on that list needed at least 19 more games, or played 19 games or more for that. This bodes well for the young netminder, as the Bruins had the second best shots for percentage in the league last year at 5-on-5 play, which is where most of the hockey occurs. It is looking really good. Now, the numbers might be boosted by Boston's ability to dominate possession, but it really doesn't matter if he's playing well also. Those two things going together could be really, really beneficial for the team. Then you have Olmark, who signed a 4-year, $20 million deal with the Boston Bruins after spending all 6 years of his career with the Buffalo Sabres. And when you take into account him playing for Buffalo and some bad Buffalo teams, his stat line is honestly pretty impressive, as he's got an all-time record of 50, 47, and 13 with a career 2.78 goals against average and an all-time save percentage of 9.912, Factor in him having an average of 32 shots against per game or per 60, and you have a guy that could really thrive in a spoke-to-beat jersey. It could be really good for him, which means Boston theoretically might not even need Tuukka Rask, which feels so sinful to say, but these two goalies right here might just provide exactly what they need in between the pipes, and both could have really, really good years as a 1A, 1B. Who knows? We'll see how that goes. But still, if you can get Rask back on cheap, maybe that is something worth considering. Now, something you also have to consider is that Patrice Bergeron, the man, the myth, the legend, may be in the final year with the team. After spending 17 seasons with the team, this legend is on the final year of his contract, and the icon himself has said, quote, "I'm going to play out this year and talk about that after," end quote, in regards to a new contract. While I'm in the camp of people that say, hey, I do think he will be back with the team, I couldn't see him in any other jersey, we have seen in the sports world, you can't take anything for granted. And maybe he does go to another team. That is something we'll have to watch after this season, unless he resigns. Then, that means if this is his last year with the only team he's ever known, then he'll have to be dominant two ways, both ways, like he's always been, in order to make the most out of this final season, if it is his final season, as he hopes to win his second Stanley Cup with the Bruins. Now, considering how consistent he's been over the course of his career, I'm not too worried. I think he's going to be great offensively. He'll provide some good defense. He plays on the top line. Life is going to be gravy as usual. So I'd say it's a safe bet. The problem is, it's not just Bergeron or the top line. The problem for me is going to be scoring depth for Boston. That's going to be a huge thing that could really just put the brakes on this season for him. They lost David Krejci to his home country, and that's a tough loss considering how well he played with Taylor Hall and Craig Smith. They looked like a really good second line that they're going to have going into this year had they been able to work things out, but it wasn't meant to be, and now you have to wonder, who's going to step up for the Bruins? Now, there's a few guys I have in mind. If you exclude the top line, Hall and Smith, I'm going to point the finger at Jake DeBrusk. He is a former first overall pick and had a 27-goal season and 68 games played, and that was during the 2018-19 season. Now, he's on the final year of his contract. That is a big thing to watch out for. We've seen flash, we've seen potential, and he is an RFA. Now is better than never to have another good year and get a big upgrade in pay, or who knows how it works, but just get a good contract going. And outside of that, you could hope for maybe Charlie Coyle to regain his scoring form on the second line with Hall and Smith, which isn't a bad bet. If he's really on that second line with those two, things will probably work out well for him. Someone's going to have to step up, though, because 43% of Boston's goals last season were scored by Bergeron, Marchand, or Pastrnak. And if they can't produce come playoff time, then this is going to be a huge problem for this team, because you play better teams, the top line struggles a little bit more because they have to face better competition. If they can't produce, who is? That's what we're talking about here. Having said all that, do I think there's one last push out of this aging core? Personally, I don't. And I think that it's the same story where Boston has a really good year, and they get knocked out probably the first or second round. Maybe they get lucky, go to the Eastern Conference Finals. But I just think the problem isn't really even the core. I really don't think the problem is the core. I think the core is great, but there's just, certain areas where the depth isn't where it needs to be. The scoring's got me concerned for scoring depth, and I think it's going to bite them come playoff time, especially if they play a defensive-minded team or a team that's good, stout defensively, average, but also has some offensive potential with depth. And if they don't address it through trades, this isn't going to be fixed, although I do think that they should still make the playoffs, and would like to see Bergeron go out on top if this really is his last season with the Bruins. Do you think that the Bruins can make one last push with their core? Let me know down below. Also, like this video if you like this video, and subscribe to join the Hockey Brigade. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. You go love hockey, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.